Welcome to Workplace Straight Talk with Gloria Carter Hicks, the president and CEO of Hicks Carter Hicks, and your host. Because some things need to be said about the workplace, Gloria will be saying them right here at Workplace Straight Talk. Look for new episodes on the fourth Monday of the month. Thank you for tuning in.
Welcome to Workplace Straight Talk. I am your host, Gloria Carter Hicks, and this is episode number 3 of our series on innovation. Over the last few months, we have featured the St. Louis County Library, Louisville Metropolitan Sewer District, and now we are featuring the Ameren Corporation. We are bringing the energy. Hello, Gwen, and hi, Connie. How are you?
Hello, Gloria. How are you?
Doing well. Let me introduce you officially by your titles. I know we go back many years, but Gwen Mizell, Senior Vice President and Chief Sustainability Officer. Thank you for agreeing to be on our podcast today. And we have Connie Taylor, Director of Community Engagement and Impact, and the Vice President of Ameren Charitable Foundation. You know, when I thought about doing this podcast on innovation, many times people think about innovation as it relates to technology, and they talk about AI. What I really love about what Ameren is doing is that you are looking at how energy meets community. And that is through the Community Voices Advisory Board, which we know as CVAB. And I've been lucky enough to be a part of this. But before we get started, you know, like I said, we've been doing this. I look back, it's since 2022. What do y'all think about that? We've been on this journey that long.
That is absolutely correct. And oh my God, how fruitful has it been? How impactful to the business has it been? I'd like to think it's been impactful for our communities. Connie, what's your view on that?
So I think about 2022. I think about 2021 when we first started working on designing it. So a whole year went into designing this, benchmarking other organizations, seeing what they do with their advisory boards and community connections. So we learned a lot of best practices. We added some of our own flavor and own desire to really make this really a great fit for our region.
Yeah.
Well, you know, that's the important part of this. It's a fit for the region. It's an idea about collaboration. We talk about community commitment, community engagement, but I'm going to say Ameren took it to another level. We work with a lot of companies across the U.S. that work with the community. The community is their customer, and we work with a lot of utility companies. And I saw this as being quite different than your normal outreach. So what made Ameren decide this approach? Because it's kind of different than the traditional approach of community outreach.
Yeah, so Connie, I'll start, and Gloria, I'll start. But Gloria, I just have to say thank you so much for giving us this platform to talk about something that is so impactful and something that on a day-to-day basis, the average person probably doesn't think about. But this business that we do, which is making sure that when you go to plug in your phone, when you go to fill up your car, when you go to, do a query in ChatGPT, all of those things that you do just without thought are underpinned by reliable energy. And so each one of our 10,000 coworkers at Ameren every day thinks about how do we make sure that our customers get what they need. And so we have this unique opportunity and connectedness to everybody's household in our service area, whether they want to be connected to us or not. We have this connectedness. And the way I see it, when I think about energy, I think about energy to equate with opportunity, because this is something that the economy does not operate without us. Nothing moves without energy being adequate, reliable, and resilient. And so that's the work that we do. But how deeply we build that connection and that relationship with homes and families and individuals is different from community to community, and is different from utility to utility. We see opportunity to build deeper relationships beyond just the power bill or beyond just the lights being on. And I think one of the pathways is through this Community Voices portal.
Totally agree. And just really making that foundation that we are an energy company is so important. Our mission is to power the quality of life. We take that seriously 24/7 in good weather and in bad weather. And especially when we do have bad weather, being able to come around and help provide fast restoration so that we can keep powering the quality of life. But we know that in life, in communities, in neighborhoods, there are challenges.
Yes.
There are difficulties. There are some neighborhoods that are thriving and the work economy is strong and education is strong and all the things are strong. And then there are neighborhoods, there are communities that have different struggles. And we absolutely care about that because we're only as strong as the communities that we serve. So that's why we saw this opportunity to engage on a deeper level so that it's not talking about building strong communities, it's not looking at someone else working on building strong communities, it's not working on it on our own. It's coming together and working in unity to do what we can together, to problem solve together, to help build strong communities. And that's at the core of Community Voices advisory boards.
Well, you know, I saw you at your best last year after the tornado. I saw you be a conduit to the community. You know, we had an employee that was impacted by that, and she talked about how Ameren was kind on the job, kept people informed. And, you know, I'm going to say you demonstrated emotional intelligence. You understood what was going on in the community and how to help people that were hurting. And you used the CVAB to share information to keep people updated. You know, a real leader is a leader in a time of crisis. And in addition to that, all throughout this time, Connie, I had forgotten the thought of this was starting in 2021. So that says there was planning, it was intentional, and then we were connected, I think, in 2022. So when I was asked to be the facilitator for the CVAB, yeah, it was an opportunity to work with Ameren, but it was also an opportunity to better understand our community and the connectedness of our community. So this is an innovative approach. So what makes the CVAB innovative compared to what other utilities might do to reach the public?
So Gloria, I'll start, and I know Connie has a lot to say about this as well. But again, our connection to community it's across the board, and it's like I said, people don't have a choice, but we operate in a service area where anything that we do, quite frankly, is disruptive. We're either building something new, or we're upgrading systems, or we're trying to remediate because a line has fallen because a tree came down on a line. So we have to recognize that we are moving around in communities, and in order to either build better, build stronger, or remediate some issue. And so being able to enter those communities with license is really important so that we don't just barge in. It's like barging into somebody's home.
Okay.
And not telling you why I'm here or what my plan is. Think about that. And so I think that this is an acknowledgement that what we do is intrusive and we're coming into your space. So shouldn't we understand what your needs are? Shouldn't we understand if we're coming to your house, if your house is dirty? You might want to clean up before we come. So I'm just saying. So when you think about how we interact, there's a need to make sure that there's a portal for two-way communication for the community to articulate what their needs and challenges and hurts and harms are. And there's a need for us to share with them what our plans are. And so this portal is a way to do that. And when you say, hey, is that something that's different than how other utilities communicate? We think it's innovative in that it's the long game. We are not waiting for for a rate review, or we're not waiting for us to need the community for something before we engage. And so when we started thinking about this, it actually started with a thought from Marty Lyons, who's our current CEO now, and you were a part of that first meeting where the original thought came. So Connie, why don't you talk about that?
So it's one of my favorite collisions in that it was during COVID, everything was virtual like we are now. And our president, who's our CEO now, became president of Ameren, Missouri, Marty Lyons, wanted to have meetings with community leaders and folks who are just really active in the community. And this particular meeting had been set up with the St. Louis Clergy Coalition. And Pastor Norris was president of the St. Louis Clergy Coalition. I think he still is president. I have to double check that.
Yeah.
But he shared with us in this meeting. Gwen was in the meeting. I was on the meeting. Everyone was there from different aspects of our organization to just have this conversation, to make sure that information about energy assistance and energy efficiency and philanthropy, all this information was exchanging and getting to the Clergy Coalition that we were hearing. Pastor Norris shared that when he lived in another area, he was on an advisory board for a utility and wanted to know if we had something like that. And at that point in time, we did not. So Marty took that and said, let's make sure that we make this happen. Gwen said, let's make sure that we make this happen. We did all this benchmarking, talking to other utilities. And one of my favorite parts about this is you that came up with this, was to have an independent facilitator. Because
okay.
some of the other organizations, not just utilities, organizations as well, they have advisory boards, but they kind of lead them themselves. And Gwen was like, in order for this to really work and to be balanced and to make sure that this isn't about, one agenda over another, we need to have this facilitator that is making sure that that balance exists. And that's where Gloria Carter Hicks came in and became our independent facilitator. And she keeps this whole operation moving and helps to ask the difficult questions, the challenging questions, helps us to remember the why we're focused on these conversations. And then one last thing, even when it came to naming it, we were going to be the Community Advisory Board. And Marty said, we have these annual Community Voices workshops. Why wouldn't you name this Community Voices Advisory Board so that we can incorporate what we hear into what we do?
Absolutely.
So it was like, and there I am working in this organization, and I came from working in community. I used to work for the Urban League. Still love the Urban League. Once an Urban Leaguer, always an Urban Leaguer.
So true.
So true. But to be part of a corporation that cared so much to put this structure into place, I just thought it was the most fantastic thing.
Speaking of being the facilitator, I happened to be last week sitting on the group that's talking about affordability. Now, I'm a facilitator, I'm a consultant, but then I was listing affordability when people were talking about things to do that can lower your bill. It makes me more able to help with the work as a facilitator because I'm learning more about Ameren and the energy industry and what you do. So I just don't facilitate a meeting. I can ask the questions. I can look at it from a consultant's perspective. So that's why I say it's really been very valuable for me. And when you talk about the Urban League, I was a past board member of the Urban League. And so it just really This all works for the betterment of our community. And you have other groups as well. You've got Mid-Missouri, you got Illinois. You want to talk a little bit because this is something that's woven into your organization's DNA now.
Yeah, that's a really great point, Gloria. And I will tell you, so we just came off of a board meeting. Every June, we have a strategy session with our board of directors. And the Community Voices Advisory Board, Community Voices Advisory workshops that we do annually have now been woven into the framework and the DNA of Ameren as the way that we can grab the voice of our constituents and plan with real impunity, plan with good information, not just listen to ourselves and think about what we want to do, but also build in that information and those inputs that we get from community. And that portal is through the community voices frameworks that we've established. And I tell you, this framework is one that is, I think, is unique because when we talked with other utilities, quite frankly, one of the distinctions that we try to build into ours, along with having this third party facilitator, Hicks Carter Hicks, that's fantastic. That is just this incredible, arbiter of what we do. But the other thing was we wanted to be sure that we were capturing the essence of our entire service area. And you say, okay, Glenn, you serve 2.4 electric customers, 900,000 gas customers. How can you get the voice of all of those customers? Well, logically, you can't. So you use organizations that are proxies for those customers. And so, but we also have kind of some distinct geographic divides. And so we said, okay, so we have a large urban core that's kind of in St. Louis, Metro East area, but we also have a great number of our customers who reside in rural populations. And one of those populations is more kind of mid-Missouri, Jefferson City kind of area.
Sure.
And then we have Ameren, Illinois. We serve a large part of central and southern Illinois. And so we said, why don't we structure some community voices boards in alignment with that geographic diversity? And so while we started the Metro St. Louis chapter, if you will, in 2022, we followed it by initiating a board in mid-Missouri in 2023, and that Jefferson City, much more rural content, and then establishing a board the following year, 2024, that represents kind of the voice of many in our Illinois geography.
Yeah. And who knows how it will continue to grow, because we really value the perspectives of our communities, of our customers, and being able to really get into the issues that are pertinent in that area. So after the tornado that happened in Columbia some years ago, so we talk a lot about the St. Louis tornado, which is still a very prevalent and active situation trying to work on. But Jefferson City had the same situation, Columbia, Jeff City. And so out of that really became, there's a big challenge in terms of housing and affordable housing. So a lot of the conversations that the Mid-Missouri CVAP is having is really focused on issues that are pertinent in that area. And then the same thing, St. Louis priorities. Those priorities for each of the CVAPs are set by the CVAP members. And how is it that that issue intertwines with energy? How can we work those together? And that's why the St. Louis CVAP is focusing on workforce development as a big area, and also home energy affordability, and making sure that we get information out about energy assistance programs and energy efficiency programs and what's effective. Ameren, Illinois, they have taken the whole engagement piece. Like, hey, it's great, Ameren, that you're putting out these emails and bill inserts about information, but that CVAP group, they've taken messaging that we were planning to send out and said, hey, you need to make this easier and simpler and more specific so that people can really take it and take action with it. So these CVAP members are awesome, and they are active, and they are in it to win it.
Tell me the mission again, because that fits with living. Sometimes mission and visions are words for companies. Say the mission again.
For Ameren, the mission is to power the quality of life.
Power, quality of life. When you think about those essential things that people need, food, clothing, energy, the things that give you a quality of life, affordability. I can buy these things because I don't have to worry about this costing so much. Ameren is thinking about it holistically, about who people are. And now that's what intrigued me and interests me in working with you and learning more about the CVAB, because it was about the whole person. Now I got to tell you, I'm unplugging my toaster. My toaster used to stay plugged up all the time. My phone, printers, all that stuff. I'm like, I could save a few dollars here. I need to pay attention because let's talk about affordability. When I sat on that subcommittee last week and heard all the wonderful ideas people were thinking about, is how can I save here so I can better plan? And those are the things that are important. The other thing, the workforce subcommittee, we have to talk about that for a minute, because you all have changed the way that you even look at the hiring process based on feedback from the Community Voices Advisory Board. So you really are living your mission. Talk about that workforce change that came about.
So that was such a powerful interaction because it was the combining of forces. It was our human resources team, it was our training team that and let me really be specific. We're talking about some of our skilled trade
Yes.
positions, line workers and folks who work out at the plants and things of that nature. So we saw an opportunity to really attack some bottlenecks that were happening when folks would go through the pre-training experiences. How can we make sure that we give our residents the best opportunity to get prepared to get into some of these really well-paying but very dangerous but very well-paying jobs? Being a line worker is not for the faint of heart, but the work that they do is so important. So our advisory board said, "Hey, help us understand what that process looks like and where the bottlenecks are." So in taking that impact and that feedback from our Community Voices Advisory Board members, we formed a subcommittee so that they could really focus in on understanding what the process flow was like. Working with our HR team, working with our training team, we've gotten to the point where we were able to reduce the number of days tied to an evaluation from 5 days to 3 days, and to also shift them from being on the week, from the weekday to the weekend. And that made it more palatable, more easier for residents who wanted to apply for these jobs to get in and apply for them. But that was because of the interaction. And again, it's not just one group that says, oh, we made this change. It was the collaboration of these three. It was the care and concern and the ideation of these three to help to bring these types of changes about. So now we're just hoping that more folks pay attention to Ameren.com careers, look and see the job openings that are there. We have engineering openings. We have careers in skilled craft that's available. So just pay attention and know that this is a great place to work, and that there's a community behind it that's trying to make sure that others know how to engage with Ameren from a career perspective.
See, that's moving from discussion to action. Because a lot of times there are open forums where people can come and share their ideas. Sometimes you may or may not know what has come out of that, but this is moving from discussion to action. The other thing I want to mention, that is, here are the two of you, but there's a team behind you. There are people from communications, HR, supplier enablement. We have a whole team of people that work throughout Ameren as subject matter experts that come to the table when necessary to meet the needs of what the community groups are asking for. And you just mentioned that about human resources being a part of the workforce subcommittee. So leaning in where the talent is needed. How do you get people to spend their extra time doing that?
So Gloria, that's such a great point. And Connie and I have been almost like evangelists with community voices and why it's so critical to the Ameren strategy. So one, I mean, we're a business, so we have a strategy, and we're a for-profit business, so we have to make sure that we're meeting that strategy. But we also recognize the inextricable tie between us and how well community does. We don't do well if the community's not doing well. And so we are evangelists for what is it that we can do, what levers can we pull to make sure we're building strong community. And so the fact that we have made a very compelling case between this work and the Ameren strategy means that leaders across the company, people in different functions, when we reach out and say, we're having a community voices meeting and this is the topic, I will tell you, we have not had pushback. People are super excited. It's not rare for you to see Marty Lyons, our CEO. It's not rare for you to see our CFO or, our presidents of our operating groups. They all get it. So the fact that they get it trickles down through the organization, and everybody understands the connectivity between this work and building strong community and us meeting the vision of what we've got to do at Ameren in order to achieve our goals.
Yeah, that's about being intentional. That's about strategy, connecting all of those things to what you said your mission is as a business. And at the end of the day, people make the difference in a for-profit or nonprofit business. People make the difference. And the community has seen that. Now, I have a question that I wanted to ask you also. Um, so, what are some of the things that you think may be good topics for the Community Voices Advisory Board to think about for the rest of the year? Is there anything pressing that you want them to think about?
I'll start with my top two.
Go ahead.
Okay.
So I will tell you, we can't wake up without hearing something about AI. And I understand AI can be very controversial. The data centers can be very controversial. But quite frankly, it's a transformative renovation or renaissance that's going on in this country right now. And getting at the front end of that race, makes a difference in terms of where we sit in terms of global power. So we want to make sure that we are ahead of the race, that we are ahead of the game in terms of being able to, run these large language models in order to improve our productivity and our efficiency and our effectiveness through not only the use of human capital, but also chatbots and other things that are innate. And so while I am not the one that's waving the flag and saying all data centers are good, I do recognize that it is an economic transition and transformation that's going on, much like the tech boom, much like other transformations that have gone on, where there have been many winners and there have been an equal number of losers. And so when we think about how can we democratize some of the benefits of this transformation that's going on right now, that's associated with AI, energy underpins a lot of that. So why does it matter, or why should it matter to someone in a community that energy that is needed? There has to be new infrastructure that gets built out in order to support that. And what does that mean? That means jobs, to basically upgrade a grid that is more than 100 years old. Think about the grid was pretty much built out in the early 1900s. So all the work that we've been doing to make it more contemporary hasn't been a total overhaul of the grid. It's been, band-aiding. It's been doing things to make it more contemporary. But we have to continue to upgrade that grid. And basically, it's a big infrastructure project. And so with that, we have the opportunity to actually figure out how we can be more inclusive in who gets quality jobs. And think about quality jobs drive quality households, allows you to have more access to disposable income, to be able to do those things that you want with your family, send your kid to the school that you want, live in the community that you want. So that's the one piece that's super exciting to me that I know will be at the front end of most of our discussions going forward with CVAB. And then the second one that I would think is the other piece that's on everybody's mind is affordability. Everything costs more now, whether it be, supply chain impacts, tariffs, cost of housing, housing shortages, interest rates higher, everything's more expensive. And energy is a piece of that equation. And so what we're doing day in and day out at Ameren is being as prudent as we possibly can with any of the system investments that we make, the upgrades that we make, to make sure that we are being great stewards of the dollars that we have to make that grid more in alignment with what your needs are right now, so that Gloria Carter Hicks can continue to have her podcast and have uninterrupted energy.
Right, exactly.
I probably have about 23 things between working on the cloud, computers, printers, phones, so there's people love those conveniences. And you mentioned something, Gwen, that I think people may be misinformed about or afraid of in terms of what it requires to have those conveniences. And so the opportunity to inform the CVAB, to have those conversations. I think I mentioned to you all, I sit in meetings regularly where people are talking about this. And the more you can inform people about why it is necessary, assets are old, assets are aging, they need to be upgraded. The other utility company that was on just a couple of weeks ago said the same thing for the sewer systems, the infrastructure. These things were built almost hundreds of years ago. And so I think there is a way to help people understand we love these conveniences. And there is a way to use them safely and economically. But I think that message needs to really be regularly communicated so it resonates throughout.
Sure.
Those two areas of priority, I absolutely align with both of those. And I think the jobs piece is so important, as well as part of our business. We're not stagnant. We're constantly evolving, constantly innovating. There are new ways that are being developed to provide energy. So you're going to see us building power plants that aren't traditional. They may be powered with different energy that folks may not be used to. Things like nuclear, things like gas, things like in the future. You see that we're doing solar. People are becoming more and more familiar with that. But it's all these forms of cleaner energy that we're helping to use to distribute power to your home, to your business, to all the things that make life, right? So just like the AI boom and what Gwen was talking about, this construction boom is another one that we're seeing really prevalent in the area. So how we can work collectively with our construction companies, with workforce development, community organizations, with unions, with everyone involved to make sure that we can get more people from our various communities into these pipelines and getting trained for these jobs. And not only getting trained for jobs, but developing businesses from these jobs. If someone's getting training as an electrician now, and they get working on some of these different construction companies and get really good at it, then they start developing the wherewithal to start their own businesses and hire others as well. That's the type of pipeline that we're trying to help build awareness around, involvement in, so that this region can win in this arena.
So, Connie, those pillars, can you talk about those pillars? Because one of those pillars that is this is built around also is about economic development. To your point, I may be working for a prime contractor today, but I might have a business tomorrow. And so, can you talk about those four different pillars that you focus on?
Absolutely. So keep in mind with our members, we bring a variety of people to the table. We have
Hmm.
academia, we have social services, we have clergy, we have small business, and we try to have a very wide variety of people coming to the table who are engaged in the community. But we can't solve every problem that exists. We really want to focus in on where we have intersections of where we can work together. So we really focus in on home energy affordability, what we can do to help inform the public about energy assistance if that's needed, or energy efficiency programs to help reduce your bill and make it manageable for your household. So that's one of the core pillars is home energy affordability. Another one is in the area of workforce development.
Mhm.
So that's what we talk about, trying to make sure that we are helping those pipelines really be effective. And in that whole arena, we also talk about education, because education is key. We're not talking about only talking to grown folks. We're talking to high schoolers, we're talking middle schoolers, and eventually we get down even younger to make sure that they're aware of all of these amazing careers that are available in energy. So then you talked about economic development. We want to see businesses and communities thrive when it comes to being able to be drivers of economic development. What can we do to continue to attract businesses to the St. Louis, or not just the St. Louis region, but throughout Missouri, throughout Southern Illinois? How can we keep attracting businesses to come? Because we need that to be able to thrive. So those are the core areas. One other area that we really delved into deeply as a result of the tornado last year was this whole the resilience. How do we come together and say, hey, we're seeing more activity in terms of extreme weather. How can we help our communities prepare? How can we help them recover? And so, as we're working right now with the St. Louis area on the recovery efforts, we have to have a mind to the future to say, we don't know when another tornado can hit, but let's be as ready as we can be by building better, building stronger, and make sure that more folks are informed on the tools that are available to help in these challenging times.
Yes.
So, do you have any tips? Because right now, the Midwest, tw- East Coast, dealing with this heat.
Yeah.
Any thoughts, things that people need to think about? You talk about getting people prepared for these different seasons, tornado season, storms in the summer, winter coming up. Any tips?
Yeah, so I'll start. I think there's a large surge in heat-related deaths. So while many of us aren't big fans of the winter, I'll tell you I'm not. Uh, but this heat, over the next week or so, is supposed to be extreme. We're under these heat advisory warnings.
Yes.
And so, we continue to kind of message to our customers, be vigilant, stay inside, in particular, those who might be seniors and those who might be most vulnerable, making sure that you check on some of your more vulnerable neighbors or friends or relatives to make sure that they're okay. We try to proactively also through the air conditioner giveaways earlier in the year, and kind of you can comment on the number of air conditioners that we give out on the air conditioner giveaways that where we partner with Gentry's group.
Yes, with Heat Up St. Louis, Cool Down St. Louis in the summertime, we actually donated 900 energy efficient air conditioners that went all across Missouri. And in this situation, what it is, we're trying to send the message, and folks may say, really, Ameren? It's like, yes, we're sending a message. Use your air conditioner. Stay safe. A tendency may be, hey, I'm going to try to conserve. And we really say, your safety is number one, your safety is first, run your air conditioner, if you're having any challenges with being able to take care of your bill, reach out to Ameren, reach out to Cool Down St. Louis, organizations like the Urban League, Community Action Agency of St. Louis County, Salvation Army, so many organizations out there that we partner with to make sure that there are dollars available to help with needing where you may need some assistance. And even with our seniors, we have a program called Keeping Cool that you can sign up for that gives you a $50 credit per month in the months of May through September, those
Okay.
strongest heat related months. So there are tools. We just ask that, reach out, talk to someone, ask the questions, find ways to stay safe, be safe, and stay cool. But that's the main thing with the weather. We know that there are things you can do in terms of pulling down shades and just really trying to manage your activities at home, but stay cool.
Okay, I'm going to try to take your advice. You all know I love golf. So this has not been the week for golfing safely.
Right.
There's some great golf video
Indoor.
games.
Indoor.
I've
We
tried those.
Yeah.
do
That's
we
not
golf.
golf. I'm actually going to try it tomorrow. I'm going to try it on Friday and Saturday, but it's going to be early in the morning. Um, so, what messages would you like for CVAB to take forward? Things that you can think about that you would like for them to continue taking forward, or something new?
I would just say that the message to share even with their constituency and the clients and different people that they work with is that Ameren is a community partner and that we would rather be in conversation with our customers and problem solving together than not be in conversation. So we are very committed to this region. We're a major employer. We want to see folks come in and work at a great organization like Ameren. We want folks to just know that it's about partnership for
Mhm.
us. And if there's something that someone may be like, hey, well, I don't understand this or I don't agree with this, that's the beginning of the conversation.
Mhm.
Don't not connect because we're all about connecting.
Right.
Well, and that's what I like about CVABs also. People can voice their opinions. Being different does not mean being difficult. Having a different opinion is what I call productive conflict. So if people have different thoughts about things and they share them and they can be resolved, we have better resolution. So that takes me to, I want to talk a little bit about the structure for a minute. I know this was in preparation starting 2021, but I like for people to know how intentional we are with this process. There is a charter, there are expectations, intentionally looking at making sure there is representation from all parts of the community, depending on where your community is. If it's mid Missouri, if it's the metro area, if it's Illinois, there's a mission, there's the commitment statement in terms of how much time this is going to take. That's why I said this is not just your traditional, I'm reaching out on an episodic basis when something comes up and I need your input and I'm gone. No, this is a strategic initiative.
Yeah.
And Gloria, I was going to say too, we have our CVAB leads. We
Yes.
have that are made up of members of our community leaders, and they review the agendas. They provide input on the agendas. They've said, "Hey, you got an Ameren person up here talking for 45 minutes." No, that's
Here
not
is what we want.
here's
Yes.
what we want. And and they are very, very specific about making sure that we do things that are action driven. That if it's just a conversation, okay, we'll tolerate a little bit of that, but what are we going to do?
That's right.
And our CVAB leads are really, really good at driving that.
They will absolutely hold you to task on that. And I just wanted to add something to what Connie said. What do we want our CVAB members to take away? I'll tell you, the one of the biggest things is we want to be seen. You mentioned partnership, Connie. We definitely want to be seen as that community partner. And we want the CVABers, the members, to carry that forward, that, to back to the community. We are in partnership with Ameren, and we feel good about, and here's what we learned, here's what we heard, here's how Ameren listened to us. But guess what? They're not going to feel comfortable doing that if they don't trust the people on the other side. So a lot of the work and the time that it's taken to build up the infrastructure and to build these boards has been focused on how do we put together a team and build trust within that team. And the team is Ameren and these community leaders. And it's so important. You can't just say, we're going to come together and start the work. You've got to take an enormous amount of time and start to build that infrastructure of trust brick by brick, so that then when you come together in partnership, they know we've got their back, we know they've got our back, and then we can go about in good faith thinking about the problems that we have to collectively solve. And so I just think it's so critical for those partners to have that kind of grounding, and it doesn't happen overnight. It takes a minute.
No, it was a new team. So they go through forming, storming, norming, and performing. And it is truly a high performing team. And it took some time to build trust. Took us about a year. But I got to tell you, when it came together, especially when you can say, we're going to look at our testing, we're going to cut the number of days down. Here are the things we need to do. We're going to go after grants. We may not always get them, but we've got the talent now and the people that know how to do that. So development is there. The other thing, feedback. We always say you cannot leave without completing the survey. We need data. We need quantitative, qualitative data. When you have data, you make better decisions. And there's been meeting changes because people have brought things up. If it's structure or if it's work related, people have the opportunity to say, this is what we want to, how we want to spend our time, what we want to see happening. Here are the things that we think are necessary. So we take all feedback. That's done at the end of each meeting.
Surveys really, 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 and we fight really hard to make sure that even if someone's in a hurry, they're trying to get to another meeting, like, please take 5 minutes and complete the survey, because we want to hear it. The good, the not so good, it's all going towards shaping something that's meaningful and that's impactful. And we don't know that if we don't hear that from our members. And they've been really good about sharing very candid feedback. We appreciate it.
And that's important because we want people to be truthful and we want to respond to that. That builds trust. So the other part of this too, I think people might want to know that this isn't a one and done, that there's 4 times a year. This is on a quarterly basis, but not just a quarterly basis where the CVAB gets together, but there are those subcommittees that will meet as well. And so this is work that is going on throughout the year. Okay. What should another organization, a utility or otherwise, consider if it wants to take on a model like this, if it wants to create this model? Let's not give away all our secrets, but what do you want to share if another utility company wants to do this?
Yes. So Gloria, I think I would start with really understanding like your business and understanding your mission, and and what drives your business, what's critically important. Again, I think we are so unique because we're a utility company and we have these innate relationships, and those relationships can be very surface, or they can be like much deeper. When I think about like what the utility industry has done for me and my career personally, I'm a personal testimonial to how vibrant a life you can have as a result of connecting to career through this space, that this energy space I knew nothing about as a high schooler. But, going through, getting the engineering degree, starting with Westinghouse Electric, kind of learning and how power systems work, being a part of this industry has like transformed my life. And what I want to do is to be able to spread that message to others that you too can do this, that this energy industry is more than just about the light switch and the high bill. It really can touch so many aspects of your life, and then that spiders out to your family, to your community. And I just think when we think about economic mobility, how do we continue to get better and to be able to do things in a way that we're able to raise our families' dignity? I just see that's why I equate energy with opportunity, because it's personal for me. And I, have become something of a disciple and, going out and an apostle, going out and spreading the good word, because it's personal.
It's personal. It's so important. Growing up here in the St. Louis region, what high school did I go to? I went to North Indeed. Then went on to UMSL, and
Yoo-hoo! UMSL, I did too.
UMSL, there we go. And being able to work at what was Union Electric at the same time that I was getting my education, and so that should have been like it for me. I should have been happy. I should have graduated from UMSL, and I shouldn't say should have. I could have, but after I graduated from UMSL, I left Union Electric. And I went and worked in other places and eventually came back to St. Louis, came back, got married, raised a family, and eventually came back to Ameren.
Came back home.
Yeah, I always say that because with Ameren, we have tuition reimbursement. They paid for most of my schooling at UMSL. And I feel like I came back because Ameren wanted to get a return on their investment. But I say all that to say that, a career trajectory isn't necessarily a straight line. It can have zigzags.
Right.
Yes, it can.
And so just being able to end up here at Ameren and be able to work in a capacity where I can work directly with community and try to partner with my amazing coworkers and leaders to affect good change in the community. It is it's a blessing. I'm very, very grateful for this. And to be able to engage with our community partners throughout each day, but definitely quarterly, is really also important because we're working together to do great things for this community. So I would tell another company, do it. Form an advisory board, get close with community, be willing to have the good conversations and the difficult conversations.
Yes.
Because it's all moving towards something good and important and drive.
For sure. We probably would not be working together if it had not been for my very first consulting gig. Well, no, it was actually the second, but the first 3-year consulting gig was with a utility company. And so I put together a 72-page RFP response. And my significant other, you all know him, Chris, said, "You just gave away all of your intellectual property. You didn't put a copyright." I said, "I don't have any clients." That was almost 30 years ago.
Wow.
You must
And
have
the utility industry has been very good to our business. I've worked with people in energy, people in water, people in wastewater. We got our start in the utility industry right here in St. Louis, people in gas, all of that. So that's a specialty area for us. And we probably would not have connected. Gwen, you and I met long time ago when you were a business owner. And then you came to Ameren and we kept our connection. And so I too am grateful for the experience that I have gotten over the years working in this industry. And I'm grateful also for what I learned more about the work that Ameren does. So I can be an ambassador if I'm in some of these conversations and there's some incorrect information. And I have more information that I have gotten as a result of being the facilitator for the CVAB. So I want to thank you for being our guest today. We can always be watched on YouTube. Workplace Straight Talk is our channel. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. This particular episode will air the last Monday of July, and I don't even know what that date is. I think it's July 27th. That's the last Monday of the month when we actually publish our podcast. So thank you so much. Go have a great 4th of July. Stay cool, be safe, have fun.
Thank you, Gloria.
All right. Bye bye.